Vado un po' nel pane. Più mi avvicino, più mi sto cacando sotto.
And what's the best way to build wealth today? Stocks, trading, real estate? Signore e signori, oggi è una giornata incredibile per me. Mi sto letteralmente cagando sotto. Oggi esco dalla comfort zone nella maniera più totale. Siamo qua a Miami e andremo a intervistare Jordan Belfort, The Wolf of Wall Street. Prima intervista della mia vita in inglese, quindi non mi sento... Cioè, penso di parlarlo in inglese, ma non ad un livello talmente confident da poterci fare un'intervista. Quindi però ci lanciamo, ci buttiamo e vediamo cosa ne viene fuori. Belì! Sei pronto?
Dai, abbastanza pronto.
Te sei tranquillo?
Io sono abbastanza tranquillo, dai, non abbiamo nulla da perdere. L'inglese lo sappiamo, a modo nostro. Jordan sicuramente farà uno sforzo in più, ci verrà incontro.
Vedi quel cappellino bubagam?
Sì, così, pantalone largo, felpa sporca di 4 giorni.
So, this is Marco Cappelli, this is Simone Savai, and our podcast is called Gurulandia. It's a podcast talking about business, entrepreneurship. Siamo ragazzi, più mi avvicino e più mi sto cacando sotto. Però pensateci un attimo, quanto è bella questa sensazione. La sensazione che non sai se ce la fai, non ce la fai, di andare a fare un qualcosa di cui ti caghi sotto, uscire dalla comfort zone. E comunque sia sarà un successo, perché anche se sarà un fallimento, comunque puoi dire di averci provato. Questo è il nostro grande mezzo. E adesso saliamo qui sopra e andiamo verso la super villa di Jordan. Let's go. Andiamo. Si parte, Simone. Allora ragazzi, ci siamo, questa è l'entrata per Palm Island, Hibiscus Island, dove praticamente sono questa piccola isola con tutte queste ville, penso dedicate ai miliardari. No, non so se Jordan non penso sia miliardario, penso sia plurimilionario.
Gurulandia! Che è il tuo podcast preferito?
Sti cazzi.
Gurulandia, adesso muschio selvaggio non esiste più.
Gurulandia!
Gurulandia, ma vai a cagare!
Poesia.
Gurulandia, scatenate l'inferno.
Signore e signori, benvenuti in una nuova puntata.
Ciao Gurulandia.
I'm so excited today.
Yeah, me too.
One of my hero.
Why? Where we are?
We are in the Jordan's Belfort house. So,
La Casa del Lobo.
how are you?
Welcome Jordan.
I'm doing
Nice to
great.
meet you. So,
My Italian
pleasure
friends,
to
great
meet
to see you. Glad you came.
How are you? All good.
I'm doing terrific, yeah. Just got back from vacation. I was out in South America, in Uruguay, Punta del Este. Had a great time. So, but now it's back to work.
Yeah, you look
Not bad,
great
nice.
anyway. Eh?
Yeah, I scratched myself last night. I was doing something with a nail. No, it just happened last night, yeah.
Tan, beautiful,
Yeah.
wealthy, wealthy.
What a life.
Better than being poor, poverty sucks, I always said that. I still believe it.
So, Jordan, I have many questions for you. So,
Yeah.
let's start away with the first one, okay? So, how much of the Wolf of Wall Street is real? Okay, let's start from the movie because, I mean, you became so famous worldwide thanks to the movie, I think,
Right.
So, did they exaggerate or leave anything out, to make it more dramatic?
There were some scenes that were fictionalized, but 90% of it is very accurate. And the things that were fictionalized didn't really matter. They didn't really change the story at all. And there were some things that were also left out. I think the biggest changes that you saw were they would collapse like 4 or 5 characters into one person. So like, the Donnie Azoff, right? Character,
right.
Like, 4 or 5 people became that. And that's because they can't have 30 people in the movie that are all splitting up different, key elements. So they put it into one person. That was a big thing. And also the timeline was somewhat shifted around here and there, But, generally speaking, the feeling that you got from watching the movie, all the stuff in the boardroom with the speeches, those were 100% accurate, and the sales stuff and the wild behavior. We were absolutely fucking wild. So.
Yeah, that's a wild life.
So, but what about the scene when, because you spoke about Donnie, the scene with the...
No, it's true.
That's true.
100% true.
Would you like to work in a company like that? I mean, it's a dream, right?
Yeah, but how is possible make a life like that and drive a company like yours?
You know, we used to had a couple of different sayings, you know, work hard, play hard. You know, and if you're going to go out with the boys, you got to wake up with the men, meaning that, you know, we partied hard at night, but we were up the next morning. When you're young, I was 25 at the time. So like, you know, you can have such resilience and bounce back capabilities. Like right now I go out and if I drink, I'm like the next day I'm just crushed, you know, but back then, you know.
Me too, anyway.
So, so we like, you know, I think a lot of times, you know, when people lack energy or lack enthusiasm, and feel like they can't work really hard, it's because they're not excited about what they're doing and it's not succeeding. Like when something is succeeding and growing and you're just like having massive success and it's fun, you just have the energy. So you just, no matter what, you just keep going.
Sure. So, Jordan, how's your life changed since the movie came out and made you famous? I mean, do you think people see you like differently now? Or?
Yeah, well, I mean, clearly, you know, the movie had a huge impact, right? So anywhere I go in the world, you know, people know me and they want to take pictures and talk, and that's great. I love all the fans and stuff, and it's helped obviously my business with speaking and presenting. So it's allowed me to help a lot more people in the sales world and entrepreneurship. But yeah, and you know, all in all, it's been an amazing experience and a benefit. You know, there's some things that aren't, I guess, you know, sometimes it's like, you know, you're the lightning rod for press all the time, and it can be annoying. But you know, again, I accept that. Like, you know, you can't have all the good, you know, without some of the bad, right? So, but, you know, generally speaking, all in all, yeah, it was an amazing experience, and I'm very glad it happened.
Yeah, of course. And what was it like working with Leonardo DiCaprio, I mean, which is a great actor?
Yeah, he's great, yeah. No, we spent about a year working very closely together, so we spend a lot of time together. Sometimes he worked specifically on certain things, like, you know, his tonality and how he would say things, especially when he was giving the speeches, and I gave some mock speeches with him there so he could watch me do it.
So you spent a lot of time with him.
A lot of time with him, yeah. And then some of the times we were just hanging out socially, just I guess observing me and out.
Just have a dinner together.
Yeah, a lot of that, yeah.
What was the best actor to do it, or you would like to have another one?
I couldn't think of a better actor to have played me. Yeah, I think he was the best.
Perfect. And the wife too, Margot.
Yeah, she's amazing. I mean, that movie was really, you know, the breakout movie for her.
Yeah.
And since then, I think she's shown that, like, she's amazing. She does a lot of great stuff, Margot. So, and she's also an amazing person, nicest, sweetest person you'd ever meet. Totally unaffected, doesn't like, you know, think that she's like a celebrity. She's not like that. Okay. Very down to earth.
So beautiful.
Yeah, and beautiful, yeah. Beautiful, talented, down to earth. She's a good person.
Yeah, of course. So let's go in
the life?
Yeah, no, in the sales stuff, because it's something that I really interested in.
Okay.
So you're natural at sales, right, Jordan? So do you think you could have been just as successful without breaking the rules? So what made you go to that route?
I would have been more successful, far more successful, if I hadn't broken the rules, because our core business was taking companies public, and I was, you know, I owned companies like Steve Madden Shoes, and I was forced to sell some of my stock, most of it, early because I was in trouble. They made me sell the stock. And I also would have been taking companies public right through the internet boom, and I would have caught a couple of massive home runs there. I would have made billions probably. So I think the shortcuts I took allowed me to make more money quicker. Yeah. But in the end, I made a lot less than I could have made.
This is a great lesson. This is a great lesson.
It's very common. It is a good lesson because it's very common in business that, you know, sometimes if you sacrifice things to make short-term hits, you leave the big money on the table. It takes time to build things correctly.
Yeah, it's something that happens every time to the, you know, opportunity seekers, the people that want to make money so quickly and then drop down.
They think
so
more about
well.
the short time than the long time.
Well, I think I think one of the mistakes I made was, like, if you would have asked me back in my 20s, you know, what's the purpose of a business? I'd say to make a shit ton of money.
Correct, yeah.
But in truth, that's not really it. The purpose of a business is to deliver value to people, is monetize value. So in other words, you have something that's valuable, right, that people want, and you're able to deliver it to those people, help people in a cost-effective way that you make money. So a well-run business delivers massive value, but delivers it and, you know, at a price for them that's much lower. So they have this margin. So, but the key is that you got to be delivering value. It's not like, how do you make more money? Help more people, not, make
Money
more each
must be the consequence.
Which is
money.
something you're doing great.
Yeah, and that was like, something that was a really powerful lesson for me about, that, and now, of course, today's the opposite. Everything I do is about, more long-term thinking and delivering value and so forth.
Sure. And what's the best way to build wealth today? I mean, is it stocks, trading, real estate, or something else? So what's your idea about it? If someone wants to start from zero, has no money, but make money.
So I think, I think there's two parts though, right? There's how do you make money? And then how do you take the money that you make and you don't spend, right? That you need money to live, but let's say you make $100,000 in a year and your expenses are 60 and you have $40,000 left over. Yeah. What do you do with that money as well? So there's two things going on. How do I make more money? Like 100,000 is not that much. What do I do? What type of business can I be in? What type of actions can I take to increase my income? And then that will allow me to have more money to then invest in other things to even make more. So there's two things going on. I think in terms of making a lot of money, either you have to own your own business or be in some sort of commission-based sales where you can grow within another company. But I think just to be an employee of a company is very difficult to make a lot of money unless, there's some examples, like if you work at Goldman Sachs or another bank, where if you're in the stock market and you're leveraging off of a massive company's balance sheet as a broker, then you can make a lot of money, right? But generally speaking, as an employee, it's not really a path to wealth.
So first of all, become your own boss.
Become your own boss is certainly,
and keep moving money, right? Because you say that. I mean, if you're making 100,000 in a year and you spend 60,000, that 40,000 profit you have to keep moving it.
Put it to work. Right? Yeah, well, not essentially keep moving it, because there's some investments that, like for example, I'm a big believer in Bitcoin. I own a lot of Bitcoin, right?
That's another question.
And right now, I just every time I make money, and I make money mostly predictably. Each month I have a certain amount that it's coming in, and then I know what my expenses basically. So every month I have some free cash flow, and typically I'll take that and I'll buy some Bitcoins with it, And then I put some into the S&P 500 as well. So I balance it out between those two.
And we know how much of that profit you put in Bitcoin? I mean, 50%?
No, it's more like 70-30 into Bitcoin. All right. Okay. 70-30. I think Bitcoin right now is in a very good spot. And I think the upside potential is over, because I don't plan to sell it in the next 6 months or a year. So if you're trying to make a quick hit on Bitcoin, I don't know whether you should buy it or not. I mean, I really can't say. I have no idea where it's going in the next 6 months or a year. But I do believe that if you hold it for 3 to 5 years, you'll make at least 2 to 3 times your money. That's what I believe, maybe a lot more. But I don't think you could look at Bitcoin as a short-term investment.
Mm-hmm. What about altcoins, maybe?
I don't like that. I don't believe it.
Don't. A question, sorry. Are you going today in the 2025 to sell the pen in the same way that you did, or something is changed in these years about strategy, sales strategy?
There's no difference in how I would sell the pen. The big difference is how I would find the people who maybe wanted to buy a pen. So it's really more on the marketing side. Okay. And then in some level, if you're selling it online, right, well, then you'd want to be using the straight line online, right? And in which case, if there's no human involved, if it's just like on a landing page, then you would be using, the strategies of the straight line on a landing page to sell the pen in the same way that you would sell it if you're face to face. But the big difference nowadays is that, how you go out and find qualified buyers. And those are the strategies that are really powerful. Selling to them, that's the same, the same things still need to line up. There's really no difference.
All right, okay. What about let the people think about your pen when they need one? So I'm not selling you a pen, but when you're going to need a pen, you're going to think about me for the marketing, for the everything, right?
Well, that's branding, that's marketing, that's, establishing yourself as a trusted brand in the market, right? So that's but I mean, there's a very big distinction between, sales is what happens after you find a qualified buyer, right? And then, okay, you have a marketing campaign or, ongoing brand building campaign. So as you said, when people want a pen, they'll think of you, and maybe they'll hit your website and say, call me, please enter my information. I'd like to speak to somebody, right?
Yeah.
And then a salesperson or maybe an AI will call them back, okay, and sell them the pen using the strategies of the straight line.
Yeah. Yeah. Great funnel, actually.
Okay, I want to use it.
So, Jordan, I want to talk about Elon Musk joining Trump because got a lot of people talking, right? So what do you think about that? Because I'm a big fan of Elon Musk. Do you think this affects how people see him and his businesses?
Well, I hate Elon Musk. No, I love him. I absolutely, I'm a huge fan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. First of all, thank God for the country that him and Vivek Ramaswamy have this DOGE, right? Department of Government Efficiency. I couldn't think of two better people to do it. And it is so crucial that the U.S. gets hold of all the wasteful spending and overspending. You cannot keep doing what the U.S. is doing. We'll go bankrupt at some point. Yeah. What holds up the U.S. right now is that the dollar is the reserve currency for the world. So people have dollars all over the world, which allows us, okay, to do things that no other country can do, okay, because people want dollars. And a lot of it is based on military strength by the end of the day, the ability to project power, military and economic strength, but really the military is part of it too. That's the underlying threat about what happens if you try to move away from the dollar, right? But again, I think that, listen, if Kamala Harris would have won, I think the United States was done.
I think Biden voted for Trump as well.
I think Biden definitely.
For sure.
He definitely voted for Trump.
Yeah, of course.
He smiled too when he won. He smiled too much, right? But anyway, I think if she would have won, it would have been an absolute fucking disaster. And I think that Trump, I always liked Trump. I used to talk a lot more about it publicly. And now Facebook and Instagram have lifted their guidelines. You could talk about this stuff again, which I think is great. And I think that this is a moment. It's like a period. It's a watershed moment for the world. That suddenly free speech is back in vogue again. Meta, and it's led by, again, Musk, who's amazing. By buying X, he saved the world, I think, by opening that up to real discourse. And now Meta has followed suit. Now you can talk about what you want without getting penalized. I've gotten penalized in the past for talking about things. I said, fuck it, I'll just stop it. It's not that important to me, but I'm going to start being more vocal again on Meta and on Instagram and Facebook. But I think that this is a combination of a couple things. Number one, it's Trump getting in there and igniting massive growth through lowering taxes, lowering energy costs, getting rid of all these fucking regulations that make it so hard to do anything in the United States, to build new homes, to drill for oil, to make telephone calls. You have this like administrative state that has made all of these rules and regulations, and the Supreme Court says it's not actually legal. They have to have been made past through Congress, right? So I think if you have Trump in there just slashing and burning all these agencies, you have Musk and Ramaswamy slashing and burning expenses. And I know they have to only make recommendations, but believe me, their recommendations will be followed, I'm sure. Okay. I think it's like this 1-2 punch of like massive growth, lowering expenses. It's like a rework. It's like a turnaround.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And then those two things together, I think the United States can soar. If we can start growing at 5% per year and bringing down our expenses, we could be very quickly paying off that deficit.
Hopefully, he can stop the war as well.
Yeah, well, I didn't even mention that. And of course, these wars, and not to mention all the money,
which is something that Kamala wouldn't.
They want the wars. They want the wars. Okay, they want it. Okay, there's you're from Italy. I don't know if you know much about the neoconservatives here. Like this is old. It's called neoconservatives. Like the way they basically. This old doctrine, it's a very hawkish, meaning they want war and, send money to these countries and support these proxy wars. And it's a disaster. It cost us a ton of money. And Trump is totally against that. And it never amounts to anything good. Okay. Russia's not invading fucking Europe. They're just not, okay? And the whole thing is just idiotic, okay? So Trump gets in and ends all those wars, and I think he will very quickly. I think the world has a chance to really get to new levels of productivity. AI is going to make a huge difference. I think there'll be big issues in the labor force because I think it's going to replace a lot of jobs. That's going to be a big issue, and we'll see what happens with that.
Are you scared about it? I mean, people has to be scared about AI replacing.
I think they should be.
Yeah.
I don't know if scared is the right word, but prepared.
Prepared, yeah.
It's coming, and it's coming faster than people think. Much faster. I have an AI company myself, right? That it's a AI that actually is a sales engine.
Oh, wow.
It's an LLM that sells like me and sounds awesome and speaks 32 languages and makes phone calls, takes incoming calls, does agentic workflows, collects evidence, does customers, does everything, right? I've been very quiet about it because it's work. We have customers, right? But we're in stealth mode still. But I see already. I mean, I see what happens. That the efficiency is so much greater than humans. And they were saying like last 3-4 months ago, Mark Benioff from Salesforce, it's only going to work side by side with humans. And then he gave a keynote the other day, like it's going to replace humans. It's like, of course it's going to replace humans. So, and I think that's a big problem, and not just in sales and those jobs, skilled labor, skilled, non-manual labor first, but then robotics comes of age, and I don't know what's going to happen. I think there's going to be a massive issue that's going to need to be addressed.
So if you have the Strato today, would you use the AI as a salesperson? If you have,
to start
the Strato today, all right? So your old company today, would you use like AI software to sell that stuff?
I would use it
with your script.
Well, of course I would, but there's certain licensing requirements of who can speak to a customer. So the AI would only be able to take the sale so far, okay? And then a licensed broker would have to actually do the sale. Right. So there's issues with licensing there. But, of course, there'll be workarounds for that, right? And I think eventually what's going to happen is you're going to have AIs that if a lawyer or a brokerage firm can certify that the AI is compliant and it's acting on their behalf, that the AI will be allowed to make certain recommendations or take certain actions without violating the law if it's certified and the person supervising is responsible. So, and I think that's coming, and that might be that's going to be a regulatory brawl that happens, and it's going to be different in every country in the world. But, listen, the AI, as great as we think it is today, is the worst it'll ever be. It's going to be 1,000 times better in a year or two. So it's like,
it's going so fast. Yeah, it's growing.
Fast.
So like we saw the Elon Musk robot, no? What do you think, in how many years everybody is going to have one in the...
A robot?
Yeah.
I think that's a bit, I have to say, like Elon Musk, typically his projections often come true, but usually he's behind, it loses out by a year or two. He's usually a little slower because things take time, I would be very shocked if we saw robots in mass in people's homes in the next 2 years.
Okay.
We'll see.
I would think more, I think it's more like 3 years, 3 to 5 years out.
That is tomorrow, 2 years is not too much. Yeah, exactly.
But I think if I had a guess, and it's just a guess, I think it's more like 2030. I'm going to guess, but maybe sooner. I don't know. But sooner or later, they're going to be in homes and in offices, and they're not going to look like they look right now. They're going to eventually probably look like humans at some point and have skin, and just like you see in the movies, and it's coming.
It's coming.
Let's come back to some...
Jordan's life, yes.
Yeah,
I have
exactly.
a couple of questions. Can I go?
Yeah.
All right. So, you Jordan, you've had 2 very different lives, right? So before and after prison, can we say that?
Sure.
Okay. So did you make that change on your own, or did someone help you along the way?
Good question. Yeah. I think the change occurred before prison, and then was reinforced tremendously in prison, and especially when I wrote the book. So I got sober in 1997. So before 1997, I was a fucking wild man. You know, I was doing drugs all the time, partying like a rock star, doing things, and just like, you know, honestly, you start off and 95% of what I did was perfectly legal. It was this little 5%, but that's 5% is illegal, and that's enough, right? I'm not trying to minimize what I did, but most of what I did was, you know, the vast majority, 95%, maybe even more, was legal. It wasn't like Bernie Madoff or one of these where they're just taking the money. This was like a legitimate firm taking companies public. We just were manipulating stock in this one moment, and that's enough.
Just a little bit.
I don't want to, again, I don't want to minimize. This is illegal. But I will say everyone else was doing it too at the big firms as well. And they all got in trouble in 2008 for doing the same shit and dog shit mortgages, same shit they were doing. Yeah, of course. But again, that doesn't make what I did any less bad. I'm just saying that it wasn't just me alone, but I got in trouble and I got what I deserved, right? And, but I got sober in 97, and that was before I got indicted. And once I got sober, I was like, oh my God, like, this is, you know. So it started then. And then when I got indicted, it was like everything, you know, it was like, you know, life is completely, you know, turned upside down, upheaval, right? Lost everything, divorced, my wife left, everything, you know. And I think what happens with people, like, you know, when you have values, and then, you know, how does a person change their values? Right. And it's very, very rare that someone just changes their values just because they want to change their values. Usually people change their values when something fucking really bad happens and you're like, whoa, well, this strategy ain't working. I need to change. Like you're saying, well, that didn't work very well. Like, I think I got it wrong. And then it becomes very easy. If you're smart and if you're an honest person and you're going to get honest with yourself, you're going to say, well, oh shit, that, you know, that strategy is not so good because it ended here. I need to re-examine, you know, the values I had. And frankly, I was raised well. I never broke the law before or after. So it was really getting back to the person I was before it started. So it wasn't that difficult once I started on that path. And then when I went to jail and started writing the book, and the book was like almost like therapy. It's like when I wrote this book so intensely about my inner thoughts, what I was thinking, why I was doing the things I was doing. And I think that really gave me a great insight into myself. And I think it changed me. And I think my transition was complete. By the time I left jail 2 years later, I knew I was never going to get in trouble again. It was like, it was impossible. I'm so careful now. I don't do anything that's against even close to the line. You know, I'm very careful.
Sure. And the day you got out of the prison, what was the first thing you did? I mean,
got a cheeseburger.
With Coke.
First thing I did when I got out of jail, my kids met me at the airport. I landed, I said, take me for a cheeseburger. And we went and got cheeseburgers, right? I was dying for a cheeseburger. And then I went, you know, and I had a house, I had a place set up to live in, right? And then I, you know, had a business, right? That was I had before that was very profitable, but it had gotten destroyed when I was in jail for 2 years. I came back and I said, you know, let me try to write this book. And I started writing the book. That's what happened.
Mm-hmm. How changed your rapport with the money after the prison? Your rapport with the money?
My
rapport?
No, your feeling.
Your relationship with the money after the prison.
Well, I've always loved money.
Okay.
You know, and I've always thankfully been able to make a lot of it, right? I think the difference this time was I didn't try to make it quickly. I was doing the first real money I made was writing this book, which took me a year to write. So like there was a massive amount of effort that went into making the money. So you value that money more because I worked so hard to make it, you know? Then in my second book as well. But I think also, you know, like I didn't feel the urge, like when I was younger, I felt it was so important for me to have a Ferrari Testarossa. Like the things were so important to me when I was young. And now I just don't give a fuck.
Well, I mean,
I live
Ferrari.
look at this.
No, I live in a beautiful home. I drive a nice car. Well, I don't drive very much. But I don't feel the compulsion to go out there and just buy, you know, $100,000 watches and to do things because I think it makes me look cool.
Show up.
It doesn't, I mean, listen, but like, I think a lot of that comes with age too. Like, I think a lot of people like that when you're very young. I see it with kids now, that when they're young and they're making money and they're 20, they find 5 fucking cars. Yeah. And that's normal, I think. A lot of people, you're playing out your adolescent fantasies.
It's like that, yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, you know? So I think that it's a combination of that. I got older and wiser, and also that I work really hard for my money and I value it more.
Sure.
I still spend a lot, though. I'm a spender. I'm not like,
How much money do you spend for your lifestyle monthly, more or less? Can we know?
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about that. But let's just say that I spend a lot.
Okay.
I spend a lot. My life is expensive to live. I have children who I love to help out. And I like to travel well. So it's not cheap to be me, but I'm willing to work really, really hard.
Of course, yeah.
To make sure that, I don't have to worry about how much I spend. Sure. And that's always been my philosophy is is try to make so much money so you don't have to really worry about how much you spend, cause it doesn't impact that.
Freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom, which is the best thing.
Yeah.
So let's speaking about Jordan today, all right? So I have my sales team, okay, my company. He's my sales manager. What if I want you to train my sales team, okay? Would it possible, and what would it cost? I mean, it's something that we can do it or not?
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, it's not cheap.
Yeah, of course, that's right.
But you get what you pay for. So whatever the price I would charge, it would be you would get 10x return or 100x return. So that's why people hire me, right? And I have a lot of really big clients, right, that hire me to help them grow their sales forces. And a lot of it, when I do that, it typically is not just that. It's like, they really want me to help them with their sales, but many times, you need to also go back a step to the marketing and to make sure the process itself, because, business is not just sales. There's marketing, there's operations, right? So, all those things need to be firing at the same time, the highest level, to really have a business that functions. Because you could have and I've had this before, right? People have hired me, and I'll give you an example. In Australia, I was hired. Someone was paying me, it was $1 million a month. Okay, that's a lot. Okay, no, I'm sorry, I'm exaggerating. It was $500,000 a month with bonuses, right? And the first thing I did was I went out and focused. And he says, "I got my operations; they're great. Just blow up the sales." And we took his sales, and he was doing about $3 million a month in sales, and we took it to $9 million the first month, and $12 million the second month, and his business imploded. It just fucked up his whole business because what I found out is that while he told me that he had his operations in order, he didn't. He was doing everything manually. He wasn't ordered. So it was a lesson for me. This was many years ago. It was a big lesson for me so I never go into a company now and just blindly blow up their sales, because if they don't have their operations in order, the ability to track, and it's pretty easy these days. It's great software that you have for this stuff. Or they don't have the marketing, worked out. Then, marketing is like the gasoline that makes the sales engine run, and they have to work hand in hand together, right? So yeah, I mean, companies hire me. I spend, the vast majority of my time working on my own business, but I do have some very big clients that I consult for.
Yeah. What do you think about personal brand? I mean, do you think it's something crucial right now in a world, with social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, which is, the marketing right now, it's there, right?
Yeah.
So do you think personal brand is something that everyone and every company now has to have or not?
I think that it certainly gives you an edge, having a person. I think it's very important. In some industries, it's more important than others, right? But I think in the sort of industries that you're working with these individual entrepreneurs, yeah, personal brand is very important, very important. And the good news is there's a blueprint for building a personal brand. It's not like that hard to do. You just got to be willing to. I'm sure you guys probably, one of the things, if you're helping people like this, you're probably teaching people how to build a personal brand. There's very defined steps on how to do it, and what you should post. Maybe you should have an online book.
Yeah, but the things, sometimes it's something that it's not something you can learn. I mean, you can learn, but come posso dirlo? È innato, no?
Something you're born with.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I agree and disagree. Here's what I'm going to say. I'll give you an analogy, right? I play a lot of golf. I play a lot of tennis too, right? And maybe 10 years ago, I was playing tennis like every fucking day, right? With top world class people that were on the tour, right? Or former tour players, right? ATP. And I got really good. Like I was playing 2 hours a day and I was just hitting the ball so well. I would destroy any average club player. But as great as I got, I would get destroyed by any one of these people on the tour. Why? I don't have natural talent like that. I lack the natural talent. But through sheer practice and perseverance, I was able to get good, really good, but never going to be as good as a world-class player. Just, I don't have, God didn't give me that talent, right? Sure. All right? Well, the same thing goes with people like for branding. Some people like are natural at it and you give them a little direction, they're unbelievable. But people that are terrible, you can still give them direction, they'll be okay. And they can get so far. And as long as they're okay, it could be sometimes good enough is good enough. So I'm not saying you could take any person and make them into a world-class branding, phenomenon. But I think to say that some people they're just unable. I don't agree with that. I think that with strategy and hard work and practice, people can become good enough to do what they want to do.
Sure, I agree. Okay, Jordan, you've said many times, because I've seen, I think all of your podcasts, that the college isn't necessary, all right, for success. So what should young people focus on if they want to succeed?
So I think that college is only important if you want to do something that requires
like a lawyer, a doctor, or
whatever, exactly, a psychologist,
or dentist,
whatever it is. There's certain pathways in life that require a college degree, and I think in those cases it's very important. But for everything else, like you want to be an entrepreneur or you want to, just be in sales, or I don't think college matters at all. I think it's a disaster for many people because they get into debt. They lose 4 years of their life. They could have been getting started. I think a far better path is to go in and find an awesome company to work for and learn and grow within a great organization. And that's how you get your real world education, by going to work for someone else. And there's nothing wrong with doing that when you're very young to start. Or get a mentor that can help you grow and learn and teach you certain things. So I think for the vast majority of people, college doesn't make sense, especially now in the United States where you have all this woke bullshit going on, all this idiocy and the liberal nonsense. And they, end up sending out snowflakes into the world that have no, backbone. I think college is a disaster for those people. But again, so, it's not a one.
So stay away from it.
Not at all. It's not a one-size-fits-all proposition.
Yes, sure.
What about you? When you were young, did you know what you're going to do? Like, I don't know, somebody already know their future, right? And somebody doesn't know it yet. What about you?
I knew I wanted to be rich for a living. Okay. I wanted to be rich.
That was the goal.
And I ended up thinking maybe I'd be a doctor or a dentist, because my mother wanted me to do that. And so I pursued that for a very short time, like a day, and then I just, fuck this, I want to make money now.
A day?
I got into medical school and dental school, but I chose dental school because it was only 4 years versus 8. And I went to dental school for one day, and I just walked in there, and the teacher, the dean, during the orientation says, welcome to the Baltimore College of Dental Surgery. She's proud to be here. It's an amazing career. He goes, but let me say this, the golden age of dentistry is over. If you're here to make a lot of money, you're probably in the wrong place. I'm like, what the fuck? And I got up and left. True story.
Makes sense.
I was like, forget this.
Makes sense.
And what was the next step?
I went into I answered an ad for sales, for selling meat and seafood door to door. Became the top salesman the first day, realized I had a gift for sales and never looked back. I opened up my own meat and seafood company and ultimately fucked that up because I learned the lessons of not knowing about entrepreneurship, right? And then my next stop was Wall Street, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Sure. So what's your relationship with Italy? Because your yacht sank in Sardinia, all right? Your plane exploded on the way to Italy. Yeah. So what's your connection to our country?
Are you coming back? Or
I've been. Listen, I'll tell you a funny story. So a very good friend of mine owns a massive yacht. Name is James Packer. Yeah. It's a 360-foot yacht. Wow. And I think it was 2 years ago. We were in Sardinia, mm-hmm. and we were going to Ibiza.
All right.
And it was kind of going to be rough seas, but the boat is so big, it's massive, right? So it's like 15 of us on board. So he's like, let's watch The Wolf of Wall Street. So we're watching The Wolf of Wall Street, right, in the theater, on the yacht, as the boat's going, and this massive storm kicks up, and we're watching the yacht sinking scene while we're in the yacht, and the yacht's fucking going back and forth. Like, what the hell is not going to happen again? It was like this massive storm, but the boat was so big we made it through. You know, not even close, but yeah. So I love Italy. It's a beautiful country. I couldn't go there enough. I mean, I just love it. You know, I love Portofino, where you guys are from there, right? Genoa. I love Rome. I love Florence. I love Milan. Capri, I was in recently. I love Italy.
Do you know some Italian entrepreneur? A difficult
The Maloney family, and
Maloney family.
Yeah. I'm not that well. We met once. I met him in the Cannes Film Festival many years ago, and he said, "Come stay at my castle." They have a castle on the way to Milan, so I stayed one night in this crazy castle that family owns, which is unbelievable. It's a winery. And then we went into Milan and we met the mother, who was the mayor, who became the mayor. Yeah.
Nice.
Wow.
And who else do I know? Some others too. Sure.
Do you know Flavio Briatore? I don't know if you ever heard about him.
It's the Italian Jordan Belfort.
Yeah, that's
a little
right.
bit.
It was the general manager of Renault F1 when Michael Schumacher drove in.
No, I don't know him.
It's okay.
I have a question for you. How much do you spend in your more expensive night?
Back in the day?
Back in the day. Or now? I don't know.
Well, I mean, back in the day, the most expensive trip I had was in Sardinia. After my yacht sank, I went to Calo di Volpe. I think my bill for that, we stayed there for 7 to 10 days. The bill was $700,000. It's not a cheap hotel. And I put up, 25 people there and bought a lot of jewelry.
Yeah, not just for yourself, for everyone.
Yeah, for everyone. Yeah.
I mean, so Jordan, you won big and lost big, right, during your life. What keeps you motivated to keep coming back?
Well, I mean, to me, I'm most motivated when I have this vision, like this idea for the future, like that I'm working towards something that excites me.
Okay.
And that right now is the AI, artificial intelligence. And I really think it's the future, and it excites me. It frustrates me because AI is weird. It's like, it's brilliant and it's Forrest Gump at the same time. Like, it's incredibly brilliant, like doing things that you just can't believe it can do. But then it finds some of the easiest tasks that you could teach any human. It just struggles with them tremendously. I think eventually that's going to change. It's going to get this next level. But there's a problem with, there's two types of models in AI. There's inference models that are instant responses. They don't think much. Like, it's as quick as they can respond. First token comes out and it's predicting that. Then you have thinking models, which use something called test time compute, where they actually don't just give a response. They'll think about it. They'll analyze it. They'll map it out, right? Mm-hmm. Those models right now you could run, certain type very complex problems or strategies through those models, and they'll be able to follow a very, very long, complex logical chain. The problem is, though, they'll take 10, 15 seconds for each response, right? And so you can't use that commercially. Now, there's human to AI interaction. Person doesn't want to wait 10 seconds for a response, right? So I think what needs to happen, and then it's going to happen, is that these sort of really rapid models, these quick response models that have inference times of 0.2 seconds to the first token, right? You know how it works. Like, if you put a prompt in, and let's say the prompt has got 2,000 lines or 1,000 lines of code.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't read it once and then start responding. Every time it responds, it reads the entire thing at once. It's like it's reading it for the first time. So in other words, it's like every time if a person says something to the AI, and the AI has to now respond, so you would have what's called, speech to text. So the speech gets converted to text, words, right? The words get fed into the AI, right? Yeah. The AI, as soon as it receives those words, it reads the entire code base, all of it, as if it's for the first time. And then it issues a response, right? Next time let's say it asks you another question, then the human will respond. The AI then reads it again, the whole thing.
Start again.
Yeah. So, and that's weird, but that's how it works, right? It might cache it, but it still reads it always, the whole thing. So it's amazing that it's able to do what it does. But because of that, I think sometimes it gets lost. So like if you're trying to have it follow a logical train of thought that maybe has 25 steps, you might be at step 15, right? And then you ask it or interrupt it with something, and it's supposed to answer the interruption and then go back to question 15 or 16. It might go to 5 or jump to 30. Like it's not good. And that's something no human would ever do. Like a human would know, okay, I'm at 15, I'm going back to 15.
Not too much memory.
Well, no, it's just a very simple thing for a human to do. Yet the AI does this incredible thing and reads the whole thing at once and follows this incredible. And sometimes it's, like I'm floored by how smart it is. And this simple thing it can't do. And I think that's going to change. I think that the next generation of these inference models will be even smarter and will have better, ability to follow a logical train of thought. And I think that's just the evolution of the systems.
Can't wait to be there, actually. I want to see that.
Yeah.
What's going on? Nice. So, what do you think about failure? Because there is something that I really love of American people, which is the think about failure. Americans think that failure is part of the process. To go to to success. In Italy, for example, if you fail, that's it.
Not just Italy,
Game over.
all over the world. It's real. It's not just Italy. It's Australia. It's New Zealand. It's the Asia. It's South. That made me fail. There's sort of like an onus, like a negative stench for people.
Why is that?
I think that it comes back. I think it goes back like really far back into history. Into the feudal times, and I think it's just the way the way Europe evolved and England evolved. There was like this class, and you had this aristocracy, and you had these poor people, and I think that everyone else was like sort of poor. You had this like, very defined rich class, and it really wasn't about working your way up and trying to succeed and go above your station. It was about staying within your station. That was like sort of the mindset of the society, and I think that the United States was like an experiment. It was like people came in and started, and they had to make their own nobility, so to speak. And the way they chose it, their own noble class, was based on success. And it's simply a matter of fact that if you're going to try to strive for success, you're going to fail. You are. It's going to happen. It's going to, unless you get really lucky, you're going to fail. Okay? And it's those lessons from the failures that will help you succeed even at a higher level in the future, right? I'm a living testament to that. And there are many other people just like me, right? Many other people, right? Very few people never failed, right? But I think so. So I think it became the DNA from the start of the United States. It's built into the DNA of the country from its founding. It's very founding. People that came out and had to all work it was nothing there. While the so-called democracies and the societies you have in Europe and elsewhere are older, and they sort of had this sort of very different stay within your station.
Mm-hmm.
What about Black Monday, if you come back at that time? Was a part of success or was a fucking problem?
Well, at the time, it was a disaster for me. But again, it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me because it forced me to go out there and, eventually I had to go to a small firm and I learned a lot of things, some good, some bad. But the point is it forced me to pivot, and I ended up making the best of it and starting this firm, that became a massive company. But that's not that's a failure. That's not real. I wouldn't really consider that failure. That's like a circumstance that happened to you that you couldn't control. But I think, it's really when you start a business, right? You're going to have a plan. Might be a good plan, might be a shit plan. But even the best plans usually don't work. You have to pivot and try again, and you have to change directions until you finally find the path to success. And I think that, in many countries is like sort of, if you fail, you get this just like this big F letter on you and so it stops people from wanting to go out and reach for success. I think it's disastrous. And I think in the United States, again, when you fail from your own mistakes, as long as you get honest with yourself, say, what did I do wrong? And you learn from it and grow. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah. Okay, Jordan, I have the last couple of questions, then I don't bother you anymore.
No, it's fine. You're not bothering me.
So, if you could sit down with your 20-year-old self, all right? So, what's one piece of advice you'd give to him?
I would say that to delay my gratification, that good things take time. that, not to rush to try to make money really fast, but to have more patience to build something that, where I was delivering massive value and not just trying to make as much as I could as quick as I could. And I think that's the main mistake that I made, because when you have that mindset, I want to make as much as I can, as fast as I can, it leads you to do things that are going to ultimately undermine your own success. So the question that you ask yourself each day is like, how do I make more money? Like, that's not a great question. The better question is, how do I deliver more value to people?
And be patient.
And by default, I'll make more money. So it's a shift in perspective. That's what I would do, is shift my perspective. Tell don't focus on making money, focus on delivering value.
Don't think about money at all?
No, money is the byproduct of a well-run business that delivers massive value to a lot of people.
Sure. Yeah. So what's the highest amount of money you've ever had in your bank account? Can we know that?
Cash?
Yeah. Liquid.
Liquid, probably like 75 million, 80 million.
75.
That's not bad. And what's the highest amount of money you've ever made in a single day? Do you know?
In cash or on paper?
Whatever.
In cash, 17 million. On paper, probably 150 million.
One day.
In paper, like I had stock worth at. Yeah.
Wow. Which is crazy. Okay, so...
and also, it's a long time ago when it was worth, that's like double that today,
Yeah, beautiful. So at the end of our interviews, we also do like a game. It's like would you rather, right? So one or another one, okay? Between two words, okay? Very easily, yeah? So let's start. Joe Rogan or Jake Paul? You have to choose between. Which one you like more,
Joe Rogan.
Miami or New York?
Miami.
Digital products or physical products?
Digital products.
Why?
Nothing to deliver.
High margin, right? Sex or money?
Tide.
No, you have to choose.
Yeah.
That's one. Everybody
give an answer.
Sex or money?
Sex.
Sex or drugs?
Sex.
DiCaprio or Jordan Belfort?
Jordan Belfort.
Good. Elon Musk or Donald Trump?
Elon Musk.
Okay. Jordan Belfort during the, that period or the new one?
The new one.
The new one. Italy or Switzerland?
Italy.
Last one, stock market or real estate?
Stock.
We don't talk about real estate, maybe the next time, okay? I don't want. All right, Jordan, thank you so much for this interview. It was really, it was a pleasure for me to be here. It was great. Thank you again.
You got it.
Hope everything's good. Com'è andata? Ragazzi, grazie mille per questa puntata e noi come sempre ci vediamo alla prossima.